so they don't hit the right.
Yeah, we just planted, I think, 20-something pear and apple trees.
Where? Here on your property? Oh, can we see those when we're done here?
Sure. Okay, so let's talk about the watering. So right outside the greenhouse, we have a water spigot that goes down 4 feet deep into the ground.
I'm shaking. Can you do that?
Can we just go home and start already?
He's going to build another one of these fruit trees in it.
I don't know if it makes me more excited to have the food or to have my kids have this, or, I mean, look at them. They're going nuts over there. They found ladybugs and I mean, I don't know.
All right.
That just makes me happy, sorry.
Well, so cool. If I see ladybugs, I get concerned.
Oh, uh-oh.
Because ladybugs are carnivore.
Okay, well they found 2.
2 I'm not concerned about. They'll fly in with the bumblebees and the honeybees, and they'll come in here and look around and see if there isn't any food, then they'll leave. If we're talking about a dozen or so, now I'm worried, right? But a couple's fine. So
I'll have to show you the video. He just showed me how efficient his piping air system, and I've been showing her as we've been going, so she knows some of it. It said 93.7 degrees on the thermometer. He turned it on, and within 2 minutes it was down to 75. From 93 to 75 degrees.
Okay, but we just need to get this started. I just want to get started already. I feel like we keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it, and we're just not doing anything about it.
Since Texas, and I wanted to do this that you built in Texas,
right?
But in Mesa, we didn't have much room.
Right.
We were on a 0.14 acres, and then in Flagstaff, we were in a rental, and they didn't want us doing anything that changed. We couldn't plant any trees or anything. So now we're finally where we want to be, and we have all these things we want to do. But of course, it not only takes time, it takes money.
Sure.
So we're just trying to systematically.
I know, but the thought of the fact that so is it just the 2 of you basically that you're feeding at this point?
Well, yes.
No, he's feeding his neighbors too.
No. Well, but okay, I mean, in your home.
Let me put this on video. We do not give any food to our neighbors.
Okay.
Period. We do not take food to church, ever. Because we create a welfare state. Now, when I did that in Houston, I'd pick the fruit, we wash it, and I go knock on my neighbor's door, and they loved it, and I was glad to give it to them. But when I invited neighbors over to harvest, they didn't show up.
Nobody wanted to help.
Interesting.
Okay? So I was trying to inspire them to garden themselves by showing them how much we were producing and the quality of the produce, but none of them put it in gardens.
It's like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it.
So I'd rather bury it than give it to somebody and cause them to mentally be in a welfare state. I'm hurting them more by giving it to them.
What about bartering? Do you ever do any of that?
That kind of sounds harsh, but that's the reality. If they're thinking in the back of their minds, oh, we'll go over to David's, or David has plenty of food, and that's so I don't need to build a garden. David is not sharing his food. That doesn't help anybody else. David, when you called, I'm at my neighbor's house helping them with the garden that they put in, but I'm not doing it for them. I'm helping them tweak it. So you put in at least as much effort as I'm putting into it, then I'll help you. You expect me to do it all for you, it's not going to help. Glad to help, more than glad to help. I'm not going to create a welfare state.
So I'm totally going back because you're talking about building. So what was the first thing you did? Did you lay, is there concrete I see? Did you lay concrete? Did you guys already talk about this?
No, but it's in his videos.
Oh.
He dug first, and maybe I'll recap and you tell me if I'm wrong. He dug 8 feet down with his neighbor had an excavator, 8 feet down, laid all the piping that I showed you, and we talked about the math for that, and then filled it. I think you actually had to fill it in a little bit and lay the pipes back over it because one of your walls collapsed. But you got all the piping in the ground, and then he starts with, this is all treated lumber. I think you gave it 2 words, something treated lumber. Pressure treated lumber. And he starts, I think, basically.
And what's better about pressure treated lumber?
Untreated lumber will deteriorate very quickly, and so I don't use untreated lumber outside. Untreated lumber is only designed to use indoors where it won't get into the weather.
Weather.
So there is no concrete anywhere. There's no supports, there's no tie downs.
Oh, what am I seeing right there then? Oh, that's just the plastic I'm seeing with
Yes.
dirt on the other side.
The plastic goes a foot down into the ground, and that's what I'm using to hold it and make it stable and seal it.
So how does that work exactly? Because when I think, I'm thinking of chicken netting and how complicating that was. Like, you know what I mean? When you're first doing something and you don't know how to do it exactly. So how did you wrap it all around this first? And then you put it down in the ground and covered it up?
Yeah, we dug a trench before we put the plastic over it, and then we put the plastic over the greenhouse, and the plastic just fell into the trench, and you just put dirt
Back on top of it.
Is this one giant sheet?
It's 2 layers of one sheet.
Okay, one sheet. So you covered it, and I guess put dirt on one side maybe and folded it back over again?
No. It's
2 layers of the same sheet?
No, separate sheets.
Okay. So what's the dimension of this giant sheet?
The arch is 30 feet long. We're 20 feet wide, but the arch is 30 feet long.
Yeah, I think I remember you saying you took a 20 stick and cut it in half and stuck a 10 on the end of a 20 to make your 30. Is that right?
I took a 20 footer that has a bell end on it. See the bell end?
Yeah, right there.
Then I took another 20-foot piece that didn't have a bell end, so it's straight on both sides, and made this 30 feet.
Okay. So I think
So does your tubing go 8 feet down too?
Which tubing?
The tubing that's in the ground that the PVC pipe goes in? No?
See right here, video, see right there in the corner?
Yeah.
That's that tube is a little bit bigger than
Right.
this tube, so he punches that in the ground with a hammer or something. Puts it.
Hammer.
I think it's about what, 4 feet or 3
40
feet?
inches.
40 inches, and he buries it that far, and then he places his tubing in there and drills holes and puts the, I guess I'll call them lag bolts, to hold the tubing into the larger tube, and then you bend it up and over
So
and
are
do the same thing.
those bolts holding
This
the
pipe,
plastic too, or no?
No.
Just the piping.
that's just the skeleton, if you will, of the
Before.
structure.
Okay.
And then he does the same thing here and runs. This is kind of a support brace that way, and there's a support brace there, and then he did these
The
diagonals,
3, yeah.
and he did one across the top. And I think I remember you learned to put your bolts on the inside, because in Texas you had them on the outside, and I think it was tearing up. Maybe that was hooks that you were rolling up the sides and putting them on.
Well, that was an in-the-garden greenhouse. This is a greenhouse.
Okay.
Completely different structure.
Okay.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out that if we ever get to do it, that
So from
gonna
what I
be able to do it.
gather, once he got the dirt back down, he built these boxes, and he's got videos on how to build the boxes.
I've seen those.
And he's ran the pipe on the outside to kind of hold them in place.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
So he built the boxes, and then he put these T-posts or whatever they're called up here for the middle structure, and then you build up and over from there. I don't think he built the outside first and then the inside. Right, you built the inside then the outside. Edit all that out.
So you did.
I haven't seen a video of you building this one, so I just know that you've built this kind of a structure before.
Right.
So I guess I assumed you built this and then built over it.
So do you kind of have those fans there as well as for a support?
No,
No, not at all.
they're just there to move the
Air.
That's the peak. And so I'm testing this out to see, and that works well with the shade cloth. More than adequate on low. They're on the lowest settings. But I'd rather not run those. I'd rather just run the Geo Air. So the next step is, so I test.
Right, that's what I like.
And so the reason why I don't have any videos on this here, even though I've videotaped everything and documented it, is because I haven't gone through a full year.
To see how it works.
With over 80,000 subscribers, I put a video out, people are going to do it on my credibility, and I want to make sure that when they take the time, the effort, and the money to do it, that it will work.
And I appreciate that as well, because you go back to older videos and you'll put a text box up there that says, I've learned that the better way to do this is kind of like when you were rolling it up and you had your hooks on the outside. You went back and fixed it or modified it, and that's not something a lot of people do. So
I'm just trying to help people save time and save money, save effort, and get the best return on their investment, which is time, money, and effort.
I want this.
And I appreciate your video from Skousen. I'm a big Joel Skousen fan. I was kind of surprised when you put that. I was surprised when you put that up, and I was surprised when you did your Google Sniper, because that was completely different than. But it shows that you're sincere about it, because it was on your mind, you approved of it, and you put it on your channel. So I always listen to Skousen when he talks, and I was glad that you put that up there as well.
Okay, so let's talk about the watering system.
Okay.
So I brought water into the greenhouse 4 feet down from our outdoor water spigot.
Can I see that, or should we wait?
Here.
I've heard you mention that before, but I don't remember seeing it. Okay.
So here's the water spigot that goes 4 feet down, because in Idaho we've got a 4 foot.
Water table?
No, frost line.
Frost line. So that's going down to your well?
This is a direct line from the well.
Okay.
The well's way over on the other side
so you
of the property.
plumbed in from the well over to here.
It was already here when we bought the property.
I'm new to wells, so I'm learning what they're called and how they work.
So that's, I guess, a frost spigot or something like that. Anyway, it never freezes because the plug is 4 feet deep.
Okay. So you don't have to worry about it freezing up here.
Right.
When it's 20 degrees or whatever outside, or
minus 20 or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So we tapped into the bottom of that. We brought the I brought a line in here. Oh, that's getting a nice head on there. And you can see I've got a ball valve. That way I can turn off the water inside the greenhouse if I need to work on anything. Then at the base of every watering line, I put a sprinkler valve on. I just bought it at Home Depot. Then I have that attached.
Oh.
Take care of that.
Then I have that attached to a sprinkler control box. As you can see, it's going to come on here at 3 o'clock for 1 minute. So it also comes, like right now, when it's hot, I have it water for 3 times a day for 1 minute.
3 times a day for 1 minute at equal intervals?
It's 7 o'clock, noon, and 3 o'clock. The way I came up with that is I come out here and I look at my plants. If I see that my plants are wilting, then I will start watering an hour before that.
How do you know they're getting too much water?
That's hard to happen. Well, that did happen. I was watering for 2 minutes a day, twice a day, and they were all nutrient deficient.
And you knew that from color?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because it was washing the nutrients out.
I'm catching on.
So you can overwater. These plants will never drown because the soil we're growing in, and it's above ground, all the water will just run out underneath. But what happened is I was watering too much and it was taking all the nutrients out of the soil. So I cut back on the watering and I haven't had that problem.
So I'll go ahead and ask. In previous locations we had, like in Flagstaff, we had, I guess, ground squirrels or whatever you want to call them, and they would burrow in, of course, and they could go anywhere. Are you concerned about them coming up and under it all into here? Or, because I know you don't, like some people will put chicken wire in the bottom of their grow boxes so things can't come up and into it. You obviously wouldn't do it in here, but are you concerned about them coming in from the perimeter? Or do we even have them here? I don't know.
Well, I haven't had anybody tell me that we have ground squirrel.
Or mice or something. I think down in Twin we have lots of field mice that are burrowing everywhere out in our pasture.
Mm-hmm.
So are you concerned about them coming up and under or anything?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not aware that that's a problem here.
Okay.
So at 7 o'clock in the morning, this will automatically turn on, and it'll run for a minute. The first station will turn on, and it waters below the leaves, so the leaves are not getting wet. And I put the nutrient mix right underneath the watering line once a week And so it dissolves the nutrients more every day. So every day the plants get fed and they get watered. And because I have this on a timer, it happens automatically for me.
And so you're saying if you were to feed this plant here, you would put the nutrient on this side of the watering line, not over here next to the plant or on the plant or anything, but right here next to it, so that the water would kind of disperse it?
No. So I don't feed specific plants. I feed the whole row.
Okay.
And so I always put my nutrients right underneath the watering line.
Okay.
Directly underneath the watering line. And you see that we have got three streams of water coming out.
Did you probably mathematically placed your watering holes?
I followed the instructions on the automatic watering system in the Mid-Atlantic Gardening course book, and told me exactly how far apart to place them, where to place them, and what size of a drill bit to use, and what size piping to use.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not very smart, but I'm smart enough to do exactly what people say to do who are successful in doing it.
Well, you fooled me. You come across smart on your video, so I don't think I'd be following somebody that didn't sound like the new. You certainly, I mean, the evidence is in your garden. You know what you're doing, so
well,
kudos for being able to follow instructions, I guess.
Yeah. All Mid-Atlantic gardens look like this if everybody's following the exact formula. If you change if you say, well, I've got drip tape, so I'm going to use drip tape, all bets are off. You've just changed the recipe. So if you went to a 5-star restaurant and there was an internationally award-winning chef, and you had a dish and you say, hey, can I get that recipe? And if he gave you that recipe, would you ever change that recipe?
Nope.
So people get the Mid-Atlantic Gardening course book, they go, oh, I got drip tape, I'll use drip tape. Okay, all bets are off, right? Or I'll put in a 2x6 instead of 2x8, or 2x10, or I'll use this or that. All bets are off. Okay, you change the recipe, you change the results. Oh, I'll do a 3 feet wide, or I'll do it 24 inches wide instead of 18 inches wide. All bets are off.
So do you want to throw in a dash of history on the mitt lighter, as far as, I don't know the history, so maybe the guy's been doing it 100 years and he's got tons of data built up on it, I don't know.
So that's a good point. Why would you not change the recipe? Because he did it for 55 years in 30 countries and tens of thousands of garden beds. So until I've done it for 55 years in 32 countries and tens of thousands of garden beds, I'm not writing my own book. I'll follow his recipe.
So are there little holes underneath here? Is that? I'm trying to.
You'll turn it on, I'll show you.
Oh, yeah.
So what we just discussed is that he doesn't he doesn't feed each plant. He runs it right underneath the pipe and lets the water, when it comes on, kind of disperse it. Whereas I've tended to maybe put food around the plants. Mm-hmm. He just does it straight down underneath and lets the water disperse it that way.
All of these plants have been fed the exact same nutrient mix at this exact same ratio. It's ½ ounce per linear foot.
Now I saw your wife in there rinsing all the leaves and stuff, and they've got their light that they start their seedlings in. Mm-hmm. I was ready to jump in and help her, but...
Is she inside doing that now?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's
careful
quiet.
You don't back up and break branches on those.
Do you want to go over your 4 or 5 feeding concoctions?
So when you let's talk about nutrition. When you make dinner, everybody eats the same thing.
Kind of.
So some people may want more peas, somebody may want more milk, somebody may want more ice cream.
Yeah.
But everybody gets the same, but some may want more than others. Mm-hmm. We feed the plants all the same food. Everybody gets the same thing because we know plants need 16 nutrients. We know that because if we give them 17 and we take one of them away and there's no symptom, there's no nutrient deficiency, that means they didn't need it. So we give them all 16. Most people will give them 2 or 3, if any. Or most people will give them manure, which we have no idea what the nutrient value is or the toxicity value is of that. So the plants will also tell us if they need more nutrients. So for example, when you want an extra helping of peas, you just ask for an extra helping of peas. Well, a plant can't say, hey, Mr. Gardener, David, can you give me some extra magnesium? That it'll show me by its leaf that it needs magnesium. Or it'll show me that it needs iron by its leaf.
So if you're feeding them all the same nutrients, why is the nutrient that you're saying they all need, why would one go deficient in something?
Okay. Let me ask you this. Does your youngest daughter eat as much as your husband?
No.
Why?
Because she's not as big.
Because he wants more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, have you ever been low on iron?
Yeah.
Did your husband take iron when you were low on iron?
No.
Because he didn't need it.
Correct.
So, plants are individual, just like people are individual. They'll need more of something, or they won't need more of something.
So, okay, say, I know you had talked about one leaf that turned purple, so then it needed
Phosphorus.
phosphorus. So, do you just do that one time? Or do you now continually give that plant more phosphorus each time you give it food, per se?
So, when you were low on iron, did you take iron supplements?
Yes.
Do you still take iron supplements?
I should, yes.
Okay. We only give the nutrient that it's deficient in until it's no longer deficient. Because if you keep taking iron and you're not deficient in it, you will build up an iron toxicity and you can kill yourself with too much iron.
Mm-hmm.
So we only give it the nutrient it needs when it needs it.
So then once that leaf turns back to its normal color, then you stop?
Correct.
How do you know? Okay.
We usually will feed it a nutrient for 2 weeks. I showed you some plants that were struggling.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give them 2 weeks.
And if they don't change your...
I take them out.
And there's no complicated equipment needed to analyze a leaf.
Right.
There's no spectrometer or anything crazy that you look at the leaf under a microscope. You just size, shape, color, basic characteristics.
Right.
And the Mittleider book has a section about identifying those problems and what it needs to fix the problem.
Exactly. Exactly. So what I keep here, what I have learned from my short 2.5 years of gardening is, and what has saved my garden dramatically, you don't see a bunch of pest bugs in here, do you? Mm-hmm. You don't see diseases. Mm-hmm. You don't see the white stuff, you know, all the problems you're having on in
right.
other gardens, because we're growing healthy plants. The way you grow healthy plants is the same way you grow healthy kids, and that is you feed them properly. Right?
So you give a plant 2 weeks because you don't want it to affect your other plants? Is that basically why?
Because the plant needs time to absorb the nutrients and for the nutrients to...
Right, but if in 2 weeks it's not healthy, it's not working, you pull it, is it because it's just not worth it, or because you don't want it to affect your other plants because it could spread disease to your other plants?
It could spread disease to other plants. It won't have a disease within 2 weeks, but it won't be healthy. If I can't get it healthy, then it will become disease
possible
prone, and it'll attract insects
that you don't want.
For example, let's just walk backwards there a little bit, and now turn around. You see these beans here? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
That's covered with beans.
Right.
Do you see any bugs on it?
I do not.
I mean, this is a Kentucky Wonder pole bean. Right where you're standing, there's a space. There's nothing growing there. Mm-hmm. We had Blue Lake hybrid pole beans. The Blue Lake kept showing magnesium and calcium deficiency, so I kept giving him more magnesium and calcium. I just kept taking more and more and more and more and more. It was always under stress because I could never keep up with it. Mm-hmm. We had 1 million aphids on those plants. We plant our bean seeds 2 inches apart. 2 inches from that, on the Kentucky Wonder, there wasn't a single aphid. Not one. Because this plant is healthy. The aphids don't want this plant. Their job is to help in the whole cycle of life with taking care of the dead and the dying and the diseased. Well, they wouldn't come on here. Literally, leaves were overlapping and they wouldn't get on the Kentucky Wonder. Huh. So what happened to those Blue Lake?
Yeah.
I took them out of the garden, threw them in the garbage, put the lid on it, and took it to the curb.
So in reality, if you do have a diseased plant next to a healthy plant, as long as this plant stays healthy, that it won't really affect this plant.
Okay, that plant was not diseased.
Well, okay.
Words mean something, okay?
Okay.
So it was not diseased. It was stressed. I could not get it healthy. Because it was stressed, it sent out the signal to the insects to come and take me out of my pain.
Huh. Okay.
So you have stressed, weak, diseased plants. You're going to attract insects. They're doing what they're supposed to do. So I get them out of the garden. So this leaf here, this needs magnesium.
Because of the way it looks?
Because of the yellowing between the veins. And I know it's magnesium, not iron or zinc or other things, because it's down on the lower leaves, and the upper leaves don't have it. Magnesium travels through the plant, so the younger leaves get it first. So I'll just come in here and give these plants strictly Epsom salts. I won't give everybody Epsom salts because everybody doesn't want seconds.
So is this one starting to do it as well, just not as bad as that one?
Correct. So tomato plants, all my nightshade plants, I usually come through and give them an extra dose of what we call pre-plant fertilizer, which has lots of magnesium in it, about once a month.
So how do you give them that?
I'll show you. So down here we have our weekly feed. This weekly feed, as you mentioned, is very inexpensive. I mix it myself. We're growing our tomatoes for 2 cents a pound.
A pound?
For feed.
Yes, for the fertilizer. So this is 16-16-16. It's an all-purpose natural mineral fertilizer. We add Epsom salts to it, and then what's really critical is that we add all the micronutrients. So when you were iron deficient, you were lethargic and there's symptoms, right?
Yeah.
You could have had all the calcium you needed, you could have had all the vitamin C you needed, you could have had all the vitamin K, D3, niacin, you could have had all the everything else you needed, but because you were deficient in that one thing, you had a symptom. So if you're not giving your plants molybdenum, if you're not giving them boron, if you're not giving them manganese, if you're not giving them copper, zinc, and so forth, even though they don't need much, if you don't give them it, they're going to be deficient.
Lethargic. Yeah.
So we make sure that we give them all that. Now, it's very difficult and very expensive to source all those micronutrients. So I simply buy my micronutrient pack from mitladdergardening.com. It's like $13.95 right now. As nutrient, as with everything here, as it cost goes up, I'm sure that will go up.
Right.
That's why I have purchased now and have on hand 5 years supply of nutrients.
Wow.
So I can be growing in 5 years at this year's price. So we mix those together. I have a can that I've weighed out. I need ½ an ounce per linear foot. So this is exactly how much I need for these 30-foot beds. I simply scoop it in here and I'll put it right down the center once a week and water it in, and everybody gets fed.
So that that you figured out that half of whatever scoop takes this entire bed?
16 ounces.
Okay.
Since we put in ½ an ounce per linear foot is what I need, and this is 16 ounces.
For one whole bed.
Right. So that's all I do, and it gets watered in, and everybody gets fed. Now, if somebody wants seconds on something, like that, my deep purple tomato plants that I had, they weren't growing. They couldn't. I mean, they had everything else, but they didn't have enough phosphorus. So I keep phosphorus here on hand too. I've had this for almost 3 years. You can see how much I've used.
Wow.
Hardly any.
Yeah.
However, whenever we transplant a seedling, we always give it nitrogen. Always. So I keep nitrogen on hand. There is nitrogen in here, but this is specifically just nitrogen. You can see 3300. It could be 2000, 2100, 3400. It's just nitrogen. Over here, I have some pre-plant fertilizer. Before we plant anything in the garden, we put this in the soil and mix it in the soil. And this is primarily calcium, magnesium, and boron. And so when my tomato plants, my other nightshade plants need some more magnesium, magnesium and calcium together is a real powerful nutrient mix. And so instead of just giving them magnesium, I'll just give them some pre-plant, and I'll just walk down and give it 1 ounce per linear foot. And then here's Epsom salts, which is straight magnesium. And then here's potassium. Those are the nutrients that I keep on hand.
Okay.
I think that's pretty much